Hello everyone, it's Mudit and this is the 18th video of the game. So in this video I was going to show you terrain generation. So I'm going to be using a software called as Blender, as you can see on the taskbar, and you all can make it without a software as well. But if you want to use Blender you can always download it from the official website. And how I'm going to make the terrain in Blender is I'm not going to be explaining that in this video. I'm not going to go into too much of detail. But you can use Blender for other things as well, such as image editing and video editing, animation. But we are just going to be making terrains and models using Blender for our game. And I've also made some of the icons of the game using Blender. But I'm not going to go into the details now. Let's just see the terrain of our game quickly. So this is how it looks. This is how our game's terrain looks in Blender. I'll show you how it looks in the game itself. In the game, it looks much better. So firstly, I exported the terrain out of Blender in this folder, as you can see, and I made this Python file below it, which when I run, then up in this folder, I get three images automatically generated after a while. And if you have watched my 10th or 12th video, then you would know what these images are to some extent. So you can download these images as well if you don't want to use a terrain from Blender. But the next step is that you have to take this image right here and you have to copy it into this folder right here. And I have another Python file below it. So when I run that Python file, then in this specific folder, all these files are created. So if you don't know what these all files are, these are basically just different areas of the terrain at different qualities. So I'll tell you why there are so many files instead of just one file which has all the terrain data. I'll come to that point. So when you copy all of this and when you copy those three images as well into the corresponding folders of your game, and then when you run the game, then the terrain will work in the game, just like you'll expect. So I'll quickly run the game and show you. This is the script, this is the Python file, and this is the game that you all recognize. So right now it shows game, but I know I couldn't decide a name for the game yet. Any ideas are appreciated. You can always DM me or you can always write it in the comments. So this is the terrain as you can see. So I'll hide the menu so that it doesn't interrupt while you're looking at it. And I'll also make it a full screen so that you all can see it clearly. And speaking of being able to see clearly, those of you who are watching it on Instagram, the quality may be getting lowered as you're watching it. And I also don't know if I should continue putting it on Instagram because these type of things should be posted on YouTube, I feel, not Instagram. I don't know. Right now I'm posting them on both YouTube and Instagram, but I don't know. I'm considering it again. So as you can see, it also collides with the terrain and it is able to detect if you are going up the hills or down the hills. So how that works is it basically calculates the height of a terrain at a given position. And then if the character is below that, then it just brings you up. That's how it works. And the same concept is done for the grass as well, the 3D grass. I forgot to mention that after you generate a terrain, you would have to generate the 3D grass as well because their positions will be changed. And yeah, for the 3D grass also, it takes a random position on the terrain. And for the vertical position, it just has to calculate the height of the terrain at that position. Now, one more problem is that when you go outside the terrain, out of the edge of the terrain, then the height of the terrain is zero at that point. So you snap down to some for some reason. But this is avoidable. How games avoid it is they either make water all outside the terrain, or they make it such that the user can't even reach the terrain, the borders of the terrain. They make some restriction. So I would consider doing something like that later on because I can't leave the terrain like this where you can go reach the edge. So as you can see, the terrain is really high quality and it won't even lag on older devices. I can guarantee that much. You may have to reduce the quality a little bit in the settings, but it will be playable at very old devices as well. The reason for that is because as the terrain goes away from the camera, the quality of the terrain reduces. So when you are able to see the far ends of the terrain, you're not seeing that at full quality anyway. The full quality is the terrain that is right below you. That's it. the further parts of the terrain are lowered in quality. And that's the reason we had multiple files in that folder when the terrain got generated. So one more thing is, for the terrain and for the grass, any any chunks that are behind the camera or outside of the camera are ignored, and that's why it speeds up the game a lot such that it can run on older devices. And I've also tried it out on few older devices and it works fast enough to be playable after lowering a few graphics, obviously. So the game is looking a bit more realistic now because this terrain is a bit more natural looking right now. Because in Blender, I used one add-on which you need to enable. By default, it's disabled. You need to enable that, and then you can generate nice looking realistic terrains by just sliding a few numbers. And then this is a very natural looking terrain because it mixes up different types of terrain. Like you can see the slopes and you can see these flat surfaces mixed. It's not just completely random. And that's it basically. In the next video, I'll talk about particles. I'll show you particle effects. So I was going to make model loading, but to some extent, model loading could be involved with particle effects. That's why first I'll do particle effects. So particle effects basically mean like fire and smoke and water splashing and mud splashing and blood splashing and stuff like that. So that's it for this video. Thanks thanks for anyone who has been supporting me all this while. And in the next video onwards, the game is going to be having all this terrain ready made. So it's going to be much better. So thanks for watching and I'll see you all in the next video.